This is Katie with Homeschool Chat, and today I want to talk about depression. I want to talk about depression in general, and I want to talk about depression as it relates to adults, for instance, the teacher. So I'm not going to negate the fact that you may have a child, a student, that has a season of depression. Really look up on the internet the signs of depression so that you're aware. I'll bring up the things that are most relevant to me. But you need to be aware of depression because it can be immobilizing to a person. And to the person that has depression, it can feel like you can't get out of it. And that's not true. So let's talk about it a little bit. When a person is depressed, they'll sleep a lot. Sometimes they're not, crying or sad, but they'll sleep a lot, and sometimes they will seem indifferent or a little bit like emotionless. And really what's happening is they're trying to deal with depression, maybe not even realizing what it is. I believe, and by the way, I just want to have a little disclaimer here. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a nurse, but I have some experience with depression for myself. So I understand a few things. There are different levels of depression. A person with light depression sometimes can't relate to somebody that has huge bouts of depression where they can't get out of bed. So I understand that there's a big wide gap, but I just want to talk about it so that you are a bit informed. And let's begin by talking about, how is this relevant to homeschool? Well, sometimes somebody might listen to this that has nothing to do with homeschool, and that's okay. But I found that when I was a student, I had issues with depression because, I think that being taken out of the social environment that was acceptable when I was young, homeschooling was not acceptable, and put into an arena that wasn't mapped out yet. Homeschooling life wasn't mapped out when I started to homeschool. I was in 7th grade, and the kids were very social, and the kids were very much into public school. And I lived in a small town. Everybody was wrapped up in the society, the community, I guess you'd say, was wrapped up in the kids. And I felt, I guess you would say, first of all, kind of shocked, but then not being in a positive social environment, you can become depressed. Now, needless to say, I was pretty good at being by myself. I had older siblings that were adults already. So I was okay. And I also was used to communicating with children on a level that they weren't used to. Because I grew up in a household full of adults, I went to school with children my age. I didn't act my age. So I had issues at school. That's not the reason why I homeschooled, but I had issues at school where the children couldn't relate to me. Therefore, I was kind of outcast. So that's it's not like I was, the Star Trek kid, or I was the class president or something like that. But when I began to homeschool, there was a lot less of a social environment. I lived in the country, and it was a complete culture shock, I guess you'd say. So when you have depression, I believe it's a feeling of hopelessness. It is hard to get out of it because when you have depression, you don't feel like you have a way out of it. And so it's hard to get out of it. Over the years, I've had little issues with depression. I've learned some coping techniques, and they've brought me out of depression every time. So I wanted to share these with you. Now, you might have a child that has depression. You might struggle with depression. And the feeling of hopelessness can be, how do I say this? The tipping point can sometimes be started with being overwhelmed. If you're overwhelmed and you don't see a way out, then you kind of start going down this trail sometimes where I guess maybe you could say your soul's not encouraged enough or something, but you could go down this trail of where it seems like a losing battle, and that can lead to depression. So some of the ways to combat it that I have found, and again, these are just from my own experiences, my own little, I guess you'd say, it's advice, but kind of there's a little testimony in there as well. Everyone's different, so you have to find your own path. But I wrote some things down because I didn't want to forget something that maybe I thought was important. So the first thing that's really important to do is to get up in the morning and get dressed and do your hair like you're going to go to work or like you're going to go visit somebody. If you're a woman, go do your makeup. When you look in the mirror and you look your best, it's not as... When you get into the throes of depression, you can look at the mirror and it just reminds you that you're in a hopeless situation, and what you see is not rewarding. If you get up and you get dressed and wear clothes that make you feel good, and you do your hair and you do your makeup, you look in the mirror and you look good, it's just a little bit of an encouragement, even though you don't really realize it. So that's one way that helps. Another way to help combat depression is encouragement. Now, if you're by yourself, or if here's the thing, you can't rely on somebody else to give you the encouragement that you need when you're in depression. It becomes a decision, and then you have to work your way out of it. It's kind of like you're in a pit and you have to climb out. So encourage yourself. Look for encouraging sayings, encouraging words, encouraging scripture, encouraging books, things that they encourage you and they make you feel more hopeful. The other thing that's really encouraging is music. That really works well for me. Choose a playlist that has songs in it that make you feel good, that make you feel happy. And if you are very depressed, you may listen to a song that usually makes you happy, but at the time doesn't. And that's okay. It's good if it's good, encouraging, positive music. Keep it playing in the background. Listen to it when you take a coffee break or a tea break or whatever. The other thing that's actually really important is to do something for somebody else every day. This sounds so strange, but it's so very effective. Now, you can start off with maybe sending a greeting card to somebody that you know needs encouragement. You can send an encouraging text. And when you do that, don't just do it once and walk away and then kind of go back into the doldrums of being depressed. Put it on your to-do list. Do something for someone else. Send a encouraging note or I'm thinking of you note, a text, an actual greeting card through the mail, something like that. Even go shopping and put a package together and mail that package to someone that you think needs encouragement or, could do with the I'm thinking of you, The other thing is to help someone. To help someone requires that you leave the house. People that are depressed tend to not want to leave the house. And that's because they can't handle the pressure of trying to be happy in public when they think it's not possible. And like I was saying before, I'm not a doctor. There are other people that may have depression in a different way, but this is kind of my experience. So it's very important to get out of the house and help someone. So what you can do is you can help, and at this point it's anyone. So you can have a really good friend that is in need of a little bit of help. They're overwhelmed and they're cleaning their house and they're having a hard time cleaning their house and they're going to have company or something. Then go over to their house and maybe try to help them clean their house. It doesn't have to be a big deal, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to go get yourself ready and go to a party or get ready for a party and then go to a party, because someone that's depressed, depending on how depressed you are, when you're really pretty deep in it, you can almost be annoyed at a happy person because you can't get there from where you're at. And so it requires a response from you that you either don't feel you can give or you really don't want to. So find somebody to help that you can deal with. And then the other thing is, if you don't have somebody to help, do something with somebody. Go shopping with a friend. Go shopping with somebody that you're comfortable with. Get out of the house to do something. Maybe you like to do stamping and you make cards. Maybe you have a friend that you feel like you could be with, and what it does is I hate to say it this way, but it forces you to try to be happy. And that's very important because your body has to, I guess, spool up to be yourself again. So even though it's uncomfortable, that's how you get out of depression. So the other thing that you can do is you can call somebody on the phone, or you can do like a Zoom meeting or something like that with them, and or a video call, and you could talk to them. You don't have to do a video call. You do what you can do, is what you do. And then you try to do a little bit more and do a little bit more. You want to do something social, and not stay isolated. That is very important. So if you go to church service. Maybe you don't want to go to Sunday service because Sunday service is huge, but you can do Wednesday service or a Bible study. Do something like that. Do something with one or more people, or one or more person. Sign up to learn to do something active. A really good thing, and it may not work for everybody else, but taking a dance lesson actually helps. When you get there, you don't feel like it's even possible, and then you start moving, and what's happening is you're training your brain to think of other things, and that really helps. I understand that you may not be up for high energy party, and that's okay. The idea is to engage your mind in a positive way, and it helps when you do it with another person. You can start off just being by yourself, it's fine, but eventually you're going to have to put effort into getting out of depression. So you do what you can. You get up every day, and you go and you get dressed, take a shower. I guess you wouldn't do it in that way, would you? You would get up and you would take a shower, and then you get dressed, and then you would brush your hair, and then you would put your makeup on every day, and then do something for somebody else every day. Let's see if I've forgotten anything. I think that's the gist of it. Now, if you have a child that acts this way, then you can be aware. Homeschool teachers can become depressed because homeschooling is a very big thing. It's very different from just going out and getting a job, and it's even different from being a public school teacher or a private school teacher or a tutor. It's different. And one of the reasons it's different is that these are your children, and your children treat you differently than they would a teacher, because you're their parent as well. So you're going to have challenges, and if these challenges, as a homeschool parent, if these challenges seem too big for you, then you can become overwhelmed. And when you become overwhelmed, then this is a possible thing that can come up. But this is what you do. And you go out and you continue to teach your children. And if you have to, you excuse yourself and get by yourself, because depressed people usually want to be by themselves. And you try to handle it. And then you come out and you deal with it again. and it will go away. And if it doesn't go away, then consider seeing a doctor. But I've had depression, some, and it has always gone away. So be encouraged, and don't forget when you're in this state to pray. Pray to God. It's really important, because you're not in this alone. All right? So I hope you have a really wonderful day, and I hope that you're very blessed. So that's about all I have. Goodbye.